Oh, hello. Welcome back. Another live stream. I'm love doing these lives. We're live on LinkedIn. We're live on YouTube. Actually just got approved to go live on TikTok actually too. I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm gonna do that pretty soon too. But basically, welcome back to Growth Club. I love doing these live streams here. Love doing it. Basically, it's like a opportunity for me to just have these type of conversations I have with people offline, just out in public because one, I like to share. I think the conversations are interesting, and I like to bring things directly to y'all, to the people. So basically, if you're watching this live, let me know. Let me know. Comment live. If you're catching the replay, let me know about that too. Yeah, because this conversation is something that I hope kind of continues afterwards. If we are catching the replay, just comment hashtag replay, replay squad, replay gang, and yeah, any questions, any comments, I'm gonna be checking back afterwards and engaging with you. So if you're live, let me know where you're coming from. Yeah, so it's been an interesting couple of days. This whole year's been kind of interesting, right? But it's history, February, Black History Month. Shout out to Malcolm X. And the Super Bowl, something that happens every single year during this month of February. And I look at it as not just the game, but just like this ultimate platform, this Olympic storytelling event. It's incredible. It's basically the biggest stage on world. It has people literally all over the world tuning in to not just check out the game and not just check out the commercials, but truly like just be a part of this moment, right? So when we think about storytelling, we obviously think about the commercials, right? We think about like which ad was the best, the funniest, the most, heartstrings and all that stuff. But the storytelling begins way before the first commercial airs, way before the kickoff starts. The stories really begin like at the beginning of the season, the NFL season. And so today we're going to be talking about what those stories are, what stories the NFL uses to sell tickets. Cause I mean, we're talking about like an event where advertisements cost anywhere from like $8 million up. That's a lot of money to invest for advertisers, but they do it every year because there's a huge return on investment. So one place where there's literally people tuning in from all over the world, they can reach their ideal prospects and they don't have to worry about someone swiping away, hitting that skip ad button. They're there, right there. The only thing they have to worry about is someone being like, yo, you took my Doritos or something. By the way, I love all the Doritos commercials. I got like someone sent a meme of one where it was like this guy came over to, was talking to this girl and she had a son. And she was like, I'll be right back. I'll play nice. And so he's like, oh, okay, what's up, kid? What's going on? And he saw the Doritos, went and grabbed son. And the son like slapped him and was like, hey, don't you touch my mama? And don't you touch my Doritos? I think that's one of my favorite commercials ever. So as we're going, definitely want to hear what are some of your favorite commercials and what is why do you watch the Super Bowl, right? What brings you to watching the game every year, whether you're a fan of the show, whether you're not, like what is it that keeps you coming back? So yeah, but like I said, it's not just me. I like to have these conversations. It's not just with y'all. I have someone coming up with me who's been doing a lot of content with me, collaborations with me, and I'm excited to have this conversation, right? Because it's going to be about storytelling and all the stories that come into play to make this one of the biggest events in the world. So joining me today, my guy Chris Ward Jr., the brand storytelling coach, strategist, all the above. Welcome. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Walt. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. I'm blessed. Early today, like someone asked me how I was doing. I was about to be like, but before I answered, so she was like, what are you grateful for? And I was like,
Mm.
oh, hold up. I was about to like be like, man, I mean, I feel like the days like this project's kind of taking me a little longer, all this stuff. And I was like, wait, I'm grateful for this, grateful for that, grateful for this, not grateful for the cold. I know you northerners are laughing at the southerners, but I don't like it. Keep
Yeah.
your cold to yourself. But yeah,
You
it's
see
all
me
good.
right now, right? Like
Yeah,
it's cold, man. I'm not gonna lie, it's
cold.
cold. Yeah.
Burr.
Happy to
But
be here
yeah,
though.
I appreciate you, man. So but before we jump into storytelling, I'm well, I guess you did. Did you watch the game? You didn't watch the game live, right?
I did. I watched the
You
game.
did. Okay.
Um,
At what point did you realize the game was over?
as soon as Patrick Mahomes got hit.
First,
As soon as he got touched,
he knew it
I
was
said,
done.
"Oh, they in for a
It's
long
over.
night.
Yeah.
They're in for a long night."
Yeah, I
That
thought I
defense
thought
was
they were gonna
on.
come back, but no, it was not pretty.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not pretty. Our
Defense
admission.
set the tone. You know, it was one of those. It was one of those. Like if it was a story, you would think it was a setup for Patrick
Mm.
Mahomes to come back, right? But
Yeah.
it's the storytelling ending. The hero goes down, right? You're thinking, oh, it's over, and then the
Hmm.
hero comes back to save the day, and then he's the champion, and that would have been a story they tell for decades and decades, right? Um, and that would have been amazing because he would have did something so special, but it didn't work out that way.
Didn't work out that way.
No, not at all.
It's another team that was hungry. That was hungry. They're like, nah, we ain't doing this again.
Yeah,
Yeah. And real quick, before we dive into story, because there's a lot to dive into. It's Black History Month, and I
sure.
can't just do a live talking about the Super Bowl, something that happens during slap dab in the middle of Black History Month, without showing some love to and respect to people who kind of paved the way. And I was looking, I decided to be like, okay, let me try to look for something that's relating to the Super Bowl, right? We're going to talk about this, what happens on this big stage. And I came across a story of one of the not the first black quarterbacks, but the first like decorated quarterbacks. I mean, he's like basically the Tom Brady before Tom Brady.
Mm.
I'm gonna pull up this on the screen to share with everyone too. So you can go as I read along. Doug Williams. He was famously known for the team now known as the Washington Commanders. He broke several barriers in his career. He was a big dog. He was the first black quarterback chosen in the first round of the NFL draft in 1978. Also, the first quarterback to start in and win any NFL championship game. And this is also before the league was created. So basically, first black quarterback to start and win any championship game. He also started and won Super Bowl 22 after trailing 10-0. In that game, he also, which helped him to come back, he threw 4 touchdown passes. In fact, he was the first player to do so. That's what I'm saying. Tom Brady before Tom Brady. Tom Brady needs to like hand over that should be into Tom Brady's Mount Rushmore. Doug Williams. So got to shout him out. We're talking about like the Super Bowl, like the quarterback's leader of the team. So you got to show respect and admiration to the people who came before and set out records. So just got to start off there. Happy Black History Month. Shout out to Doug Williams.
Look at that right there, right? You said after trailing 10-0. What did we just talk about, right? The story would go if you're down and then the comeback happens and then you become legendary.
Legendary.
That's how
The
stories work.
GOAT. That's right. That's right. But yes. So shout out to Doug. So yeah, Chris. So like I mentioned earlier, storytelling. Honestly, I gotta give you a lot of credit, right? So when I first met you, you was one of the people I heard speak about storytelling the most, and in a way that was kind of different to a lot of people. And since
Mm,
then, I'm starting to see it in all different like aspects of life, right? And, as it's becoming a bigger term in marketing and stuff like that. And as I was preparing for this, I started thinking like, yo, obviously when we think about storytellings, we think about the commercials, the best commercials, but it starts way, way before that, right?
yeah,
And I was thinking like some of the strongest stories that are used to sell the Super Bowl are around, the two teams and the halftime show,
mm,
right? And this was a interesting one. We already talked about one of them with Patrick Mahomes. Like, can he do it? This was the year he's supposed to hit that 3P. Like, that was the whole question. Can he do it again? Can he do it again? He's
yeah,
come back from um, trailing behind other teams before. People are already looking at him as like the Tom Brady aspect of it. And I think they did a really good job at like selling that story up until like the very moment of kickoff. The commentators were talking about that being like the biggest thing. I think that they were like the favorite team to win this thing. So
for
that was
sure.
like yeah. So when it comes to like the NFL and everything, what's something that marketers and creators can learn from how the NFL uses stories to, or really like depends on stories to sell this big game?
Yeah, it's a great question. The NFL is very smart about having a collective community get behind a brand, right? You don't there in the NFL there are amazing players, right? But
Mm.
I think the average NFL life is about 3 to 4 years, depending on position, right?
Yeah.
And so people come and go, they get replaced, but the teams don't, right? The brand don't, because there's history in that. So usually when someone says I'm a fan of this team, it's because their parents were fans of that team, where their grandparents were fans of that team, and it just goes down and down and down and down. And the NFL knows that, so they focus a lot on the collective, right? And so if you're thinking, how can I do that as well? You got to first find that story that your audience wants to attach themselves to. What do they want to put their identity behind? Because a
Yeah.
lot of times, if you notice, depending on the team, the city kind of represents that energy as well,
Hmm.
right? We'll just use Philly for an example. Um, hard nose, put on your, hard workers, put on your boots, right? Hard hat, go to work, right? Dirty, grimy, right? Whatever it may be. But guess what? Great people, right? Great people. But guess what? It's hard living, and not only hard living, but you celebrate hard too.
Oh man, the
Yeah,
hardest, hardest. Man, I haven't seen like what they've been doing this year, but I just know like last time, street polls went down. It was
yeah,
it was crazy. They
yeah,
they tore the
yeah,
city
yeah.
up out of love and admiration.
But yeah, I mean, the biggest part for people is to look at what can your audience get behind, not one outlier. That's a big part too, because a lot of times people will look at outliers in their audience and believe that's what everybody wants to get behind, and they'll build their entire story around the outliers in their audience. You want
Mm.
something that's so relatable, and I'll give an example. So I want
Yeah,
y'all
let's
to
do it.
imagine this. I want you to imagine this. You have the pleasure of being a parent, right? And you have a very tough time getting your kids to go to sleep,
Mm.
right? And you start to figure out this special way to get kids to go to sleep. And then you start to hear your friends who are your neighbors say they have a hard time with their kids. And then someone else and someone from their school. And you start to think, what if I could get something to rally these groups of people together so we all can share in our journey of helping our kids get to sleep at a proper bedtime. That's exactly what the NFL is doing. Hey, the prize is the Super Bowl. However, the Super Bowl means nothing if the audience, the crowd, is not behind cheering on their team to pull them through. That's the big part. They are literally the sixth man, as they say, that rallies the team to get them to win, whether it's their criticism, whether
Mm.
it's their praise. You have a way to affect the game. And NFL audiences believe they do. And that's the beautiful part of it, because you see a lot of the teams acknowledge their super fans, right? They acknowledge their super fans in
Yeah.
every audience. But you ever notice that it's the ones that are not like it's the ones that are not so not the super fan, but it's ones that that rally the team together, that they're like, we want to play for them. We want we
Mm.
we, we want to play for them because they represent what we represent. And so that's what the NFL has done. And pretty much those major cities that have won, they've been able to do that. And they're trying to get every team on point to do so, because if every team believes they have a chance to get better and win, the brand and the product will continue to be supported and it'll continue to grow.
That's true. Like as you're saying this, I'm a Panthers fan from the Carolinas, and I don't know if I believe anymore. Hope, but
Yeah.
I don't know. But no, that's real. That's real. I think there's like this beautiful kind of ecosystem that exists. And something I didn't mention before is just in general with storytelling. this is something that, regardless of people realize it or not, it's something. It's like a it's what businesses depend on to convert, right? And I think for a lot of people who are either you're marketing professionals, you're on the sales team, your partners, content creators, just someone, just whoever you are, there's a lot of different ways that we could affect storytelling or kind of contribute to the story. I think with the Super Bowl, there's like it's such an interesting, unique thing because you always focus about the game and what happens from the first whistle to the last one. And but there's so much more to that. There's like how it affects the economy in that local area, all the different events, the people, like you said, the fans themselves who live there, they're part of that story as well. There's a lot of things that go into um all of this. And it's like for this league to survive, they always need to find that next story. I think they some of the stories I've seen also that it's like, what are y'all doing? Is the whole like Taylor Swift effect and all that stuff that I'm spinning it, but it's just still part of it too. It's just another thing that's there, even though it's not like the main thing. Another story, just going back to one of the main, was a Jalen Hurts. Lost to the Chiefs before, but he's that relatable underdog. Like, can he come back? Can he do it? In addition to that, some of the stories are like who he is as a person, with like an all black management team, a woman being his manager, a black woman being his manager. A lot of aspects to it, especially during Black History Month too. It's just like super special. Shout out to us. But yeah, that quarterback v quarterback rivalry, I think it's just like two prime examples of different ways that you could spin things to gear people, like regardless of people who like me, I don't have strong opinions about either team, but I'm still going there to see like, okay, who's gonna do it? Who's gonna do it? So like I almost feel like the way they tell stories is kind of similar to like in wrestling, right? I know you're big in the wrestling world and everything, and that right there is a true masterclass of storytelling. It's all stories. NFL gets to rely on the sports part of it too, which the stories there too, but just that kind of sales thing, the ability to convert. What are some like lessons I would say, or things that you love about like that wrestling world that you can see kind of like translating over to the NFL? Is it that like the leaders of the team clashing? Is it like the fans? Are there any similarities there?
That's a great question. I first want to say, before I get into that point, shout out to Jalen Hurts having an all women management team, not just his
All
manager,
women too? I think it was
all
all
women.
black.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
all women. Shout
all
man,
women
shout out to
management
them.
team. Um, and before I answer the wrestling part, I also want to say that Jalen Hurts is unique because he has learned something that when I work with athletes and I work with clients, one of the things I share with them is that sometimes less is more. And he has learned how to speak in sound bites. And
Mm,
he's very effective at it. And so he can reference back when he has said something, and he can reference back when the media has said something about what he said. And I think that's very effective when you are telling your own story. So I just wanted to point that out. That was very, very important,
ooh, wait, can we sit with
especially
that
who.
for a second actually? Because that's a really strong
Yeah, sure.
point. I think like, can apply to outside of the sales aspect to it, of like knowing your own story and be able to recall that. Like why is that so important? I mean, it's impressive, yeah, but why is that important? Be able to move that way.
Consistency. Consistency is important. Where there's consistency, there's trust, right? Especially at his position, right? He's the quarterback. He's the leader of the team. He's gonna get the most criticism and he's gonna get the most praise, right? When they do well, and he's gonna get the most criticism when they don't do well. So his consistency and his character is not just for the audience that's watching him and supporting him. His consistency is for the people in the locker room that he's sharing his life with, and
Mm,
that's extremely important. And you got to think about it from, many of you have your own jobs, and some of you are content creators, some of you have positions in your corporate building, whatever it may be. Think about this. If you had a team that you're managing and they don't trust you, most likely you're not going to hit your goals as effectively as you could, right?
thanks.
Because you're going to be distracted by details that don't necessarily matter in the overall scheme of things, right? And so consistency to knowing your story and in telling that story is very difficult when someone says you're a certain way
Mm.
When someone comes out of left field and said this person is this way, and then you can go all the way back to his college days, and people will say this is who this man is, and that's important. You know, for good or for bad, you need to put yourself out there. And what I mean for bad, most people think when you're vulnerable, you take more shots, and that may be true. However, when you stick to your values and who you are and how you've shown up consistently throughout your entire life, that's par for the course. You're going to be criticized when people are not looking to understand you, are not looking to support you. There's just some people who are there just to say, I want to know if he can take it or not. I want to know
Mm.
if he's capable or not, right? Because everyone has different philosophies on how they can bring out greatness or how they can challenge people. So it's important to just make sure that whether you're in a corporate building or you're a content creator or a small business owner, that you consistently uh, you consistently tell your story through your values and how you consistently speak about yourself and how you speak about others. And Jalen has done that tremendously.
Mm. Shout out to Jalen. Shout out to all the black women helping him to become one of the highest paid NFL players in the world. Um, yeah, that's dope. Actually, as you were talking, I was thinking about like I don't know if you've seen about the side by side comparison of Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts answering the question about like how they feel about Trump coming to the Super Bowl, and like two professional answers, but two completely different vibes. You could clearly tell like how
Yeah,
people well, actually, I mean, not necessarily clearly, but especially you could read between the lines with a lot of things.
yeah.
Um oh, we gotta say something.
No, no, you're good. Go ahead.
All right, cool, cool. So another story that I did remember, I
Oh,
interrupted your answer to the whole other question.
I'm
Actually,
sorry. Did you want me to go back to the wrestling
let's go
question?
back to that. Yeah, because I'm very curious about that. And mostly because like there are a lot of wrestling fans all over the world, but for people who don't watch it at all, like most wrestling I've seen is from The Rock's show on Peacock, and I just like that really opened my eyes to that world. And it's just like, man, there's just a lot that happens there that I feel like can be a blueprint for other sporting events, other industries, games, content creators, professionals. Just so there's a lot of lessons that could be learned from the wrestling world.
$1 billion industry, man. That's why the wrestlers have such a connection to the football players, right? I don't know if you noticed this, but sometimes they'll do football players will do the celebrations of wrestlers when they
Oh yeah,
excuse me,
yeah.
when they score,
Hmm.
because they have that type of connection. And wrestling is unique because you don't have to be the greatest athlete, but if you can emotionally bring someone to a place that allows them to just for a moment. I want you to think about this. Just for a moment, you are in what they call suspended belief, where you're at a show. However, you are so emotionally invested. If it's a story of triumph and overcoming, you start to get so emotional. You see, it's like tears in your eye. You start clapping,
Mm.
right? Or if it's your favorite hero is getting beat down and you want to rally him to come back, you start cheering for him to make that comeback or her to make that comeback, right? That's the only thing that that the wrestling has over the NFL, which the NFL is trying to change, and we'll talk about that later.
Mm.
Um, they have women highlighted in their space, right? So wrestling and football, they're in the arena, they're performing for their audience, and they're doing their best to not just entertain, but to create a moment and experience where that moment can be passed down to the next generation. You know, give you an example. My son doesn't know anything about wrestling. He didn't see The Rock when I was that's my age, right? Seeing The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin and all these people. But I wanted him to have an experience. So I took him to his first wrestling show about a couple of years ago, and he's like, "I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here." Right? And what is this all about? 15 minutes later, he's out there doing the chants that all the people are doing. He's like, "Let's go, come back, let's go." He forgot that he
Mhm.
didn't even want to go there. He forgot he didn't want to be there.
Mm.
And that's what I mean by a collective, right? A collective. When you see a group of people cheering on, having a good time, you're like, man, let me pay a little bit more attention to this. And then you start, even if you don't understand it, there's a flow, there's a rhythm to it. Same thing in the NFL and football, right? When you have two amazing teams going against each other, there's usually a flow, right? There's an energy, a chemistry that builds up. And that person, if that person who went to that NFL game, if that's their first time ever, that experience will change their life. They'll want that experience again, and they'll want to share it with others.
Hmm. That experience, would you say, like, and I'm not trying to, like, like gas up storytelling, like everything is story, but I feel like something like that, you could find where storytelling kind of affects and influences different things. So, like, what would you say is like one of the kind of key factors that helps to create that experience that turns someone from like a I don't want to be here to a let's go? Like, what are those factors?
Yeah, there's a lot of factors that's involved. The group of people you're with, that's
Mm,
important, right? Not only that, you have to have an opportunity to be around and experience enough to kind of let down your guard a little bit. And I know that sounds weird, but letting down your guard is so important when you want to feel the experience, right?
yeah.
Um, and most people, if they are fighting it the entire time, they're gonna miss the experience. But then they'll start looking around like, how come everybody else is not fighting this? How come everybody else seems like they are enjoying themselves?
Mm,
Okay, if I'm only gonna do this once, let me at least enjoy myself, right?
mhm.
And that's usually a big factor. Another factor in it is if you have kids, ice cream. Come on, man.
Oh, that's how you got on there, Robert. Hey, we'll get
Hey,
ice cream afterwards.
no, no, I said you're gonna get ice cream right now.
Oh, okay, they had it there.
You can get ice cream right now. I said, you want ice cream? Yeah, ice cream. Right? That's for adults too.
All
Get
right.
some ice cream, sit, and you start to eat the ice cream, right? And you're like, mm. Now, what am I saying? What I'm saying is everybody comes to that sport, whatever event or experience for different reasons, right? Whatever factors got you there, it got you there. The factors that will keep you there, or at least and let you enjoy the experience, you're gonna need something to kind of again let down your guard, right? And it might be food, right? It might be music. We hear that at the game, right?
Hmm.
Music where people are singing along, and maybe your favorite song comes on. I'll give you an example. Uh, my son was sleeping during the time Kendrick's performance. We're not gonna go into it, but during Kendrick's performance, and all of a sudden, uh, I heard somebody running from the background, from the back room, and he screams, "Mustard!" I'm like, bro, where did you even? How do you even know? How do you even know this?
Mm.
Right? And I thought, okay, he just knows the mustard part. But then he's like, turn the TV off. Turn the TV. My son is 10 years old. I'm like, how do you? How, how, how do you know this? So then, so the factor is what we call positive associations. A song is a positive association. Food is positive associations, right? Friends and family are, so that's why you bring people together that you like, because it makes the experience so much more fun,
Mm.
right? So those are the factors, right? Positive associations that allow people to let their guard down and then actually enjoy the experience.
I love that. Shout out to Future Kane. She came on. She said she immediately related to, story with your son. She said she grew up with wrestling, loved the story about your son and being one across differences.
Mm.
You know, shout out the
Shout out
future
to
guest on
Future.
the podcast. Yo, that's funny. Your son just popped out of nowhere, right on
Out of
time for the
nowhere.
mustard thing.
You should have
And
saw my wife. She was like, she just looked at me. She's like, "How?" I was like, "Listen, I don't even know how I didn't teach him this."
you know what's that's the power of social media, right? So the next story that I think helped to really sell the everything, the halftime show. There's like three reasons why people usually watch, right? It's for the game, for the commercials. And I feel like for those instances, people who are like tagging along with someone who's there for the game, and then the halftime show. My partner, she don't care anything about the game. She'll watch a commercial too, but it's the halftime show. She was there for Rihanna. She was there for Usher. She was there for Beyonce. She been to all the games just for the halftime show. And there's so much anticipation for this one because of the beef, because of everything going on between Kendrick and Drake. And to my surprise, a lot of people were let down.
Mm,
And I actually know someone who said like he didn't play any hits, and I was like, yo, TV Off was one of the biggest songs, but they were talking about like records and number one records and stuff like that. I was like, sure, that was number one in the internet streets.
mm,
But yeah, that's just like power of the internet, right? I
mm.
think some people know the story of what's going on, some people don't. They just hear for all the memes and stuff, but that right there is evidence. I think
Yeah,
that was funny, man.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. But um back to like the storytelling side of this thing, I think, and then we're gonna get into some of like the commercial stuff that we feel like are the best, kind of did a great job at storytelling, and ones that were almost there that kind of fell short. Because while it's the Super Bowl commercial is a great investment, you could spend $8 million and waste it because everyone's going to forget about you after it's over. So I'm going to dive into some of that. But first, Kendrick's performance, man, because the story that right there, that's a master storyteller. That's a master storyteller. I know some people were not feeling it.
yeah,
Some people were. I was. I love the whole entire thing. I was like, man, I was impressed the whole entire time. I'm still kind of shocked. I know everyone has different takeaways and breakdowns, and and some of them are kind of crazy, but other ones are like, oh no, I see that. Like, I don't know if you saw it, but he had Compton spelled out in Braille, like the way that his dancers were stood up. Someone took a screenshot. I was like, "What does this say?" I know it says something, but what does it say? Everyone's like drawing their own thing in conclusion, and someone was like, "Yo, this actually spells out Compton in Braille." I'm like, "Yo,
I,
deep cut info,
hey
man. I
man,
don't know," but
out of my
yeah,
wheelhouse, bro.
out of the wheelhouse. But yeah, I'm not gonna do like a deep Kendrick breakdown. I'm gonna save
Yeah,
that just for my own entertainment and stuff. I might do something later, but I've been enjoying everyone else sharing. And something I didn't even know, like Samuel L. Jackson's character. I mean, not character, but presence in it.
mm,
Surprise, and I loved it. And that was one where obviously his name's Samuel, Uncle Sam. There's that correlation there. Oh,
wait, something's happening here. Let me
okay.
shut it down.
No
Give me one
problem.
moment. I'm
No
sorry about that.
problem. Do your thing. I'll take you off. You just give me the thumbs up when it's time to come back on. But yeah, y'all, let me know what y'all thought about that Kendrick performance and everything. I thought the one thing I learned with Samuel L. Jackson, I felt like he was a perfect, option and choice for that, just regardless of everything else. But as I started digging in and Googling, I saw that one, like two very interesting things stood out to me. One, he was the usher at MLK's funeral service. That right there is impactful. Another was he was arrested. He has a criminal record for while he was in college, but the arrest happened because he was protesting at Morehouse College, and that's like a deep thing there too. I haven't had the time to dig into that, but that's going to be one of my Black History projects. Is like, what does it take for you to get arrested protesting? I mean, that part's not that surprising because they love to do that, but doing it at Morehouse, like what was going on? So I'm very curious. I think there's just layers there. Even with Serena Williams, obviously there's the Drake history there, but there's just so much more. Like when she was I don't know if she was actually fined, but with, crip walking at Wimbledon way back, it went viral. It was a meme. There's tons of gifs about it, but she basically got in trouble. She was oh, Chris, you back?
Yeah.
All right, cool, yeah. So I think one amazing show. There's also just so much more to learn. I love the impact. I love the messaging of everything. I think that's another example where when it comes to the Super Bowl, I think halftime show, there's always an anticipation of what's going to happen. I was doing some man on the street stuff for this other brand, just helping them to create content. And one of the things we ended up asking them was like, should Kendrick bring Lil Wayne out? Because he could have. He could have. It's in New Orleans. That was one of the things that people were talking about. Like he should do it. Yada yada yada. They have a
Yeah,
song together, not a Super Bowl level song, but as we seen the other day, that you don't have to be a hit for it to have an impact.
yeah,
So yeah, so much anticipation around in that story. Definitely had people ready, waiting to see what was going to happen. Would he do the Not Like Us song? Will he not do it? Is Drake going to sue? Haven't seen any filing reports happening since. I think he's waiting a little bit, but yeah, incredible performance.
yeah. I mean, uh, every story is not liked, and every story is not understood. Every story is not. Sometimes it takes years and decades for a story to be understood. Time passes, and it's seen as is given the respect that it's due. And then there are times where it's just, hey, people are just like, it was okay, right? Like, and that's the beauty of story because it's art. You, it's not going to be for everyone. The power of story is really the person who's telling it. That's really what is special about it. And if he decided to tell the story in that way, whether we like it or not, I mean, people can criticize it. Um,
Yeah.
but there are others who did like it, and then you never know with him. He's someone that is always a few steps ahead of what we think he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we don't know what this will do for the songs that he played. I'm not sure. He owns his own label, right? Owns his own
Yeah.
masters, owns his own music, uh, at least this newest music. So who knows what that means, right? Who knows why he did it the way he did it? But what I will say is, hey, for you to do what you did at the Super Bowl, and people are still speaking on it in a way where they're analyzing and they are looking for hidden codes and they're looking for hidden messages. That goes back to my point of being consistent to who you are and your values.
Yeah.
He has always allowed his audience to do this. Always.
Facts.
He's always
Facts.
allowed his audience to do this.
Quadruple entendres.
He allows his audience to speak for him and connect dots and do different things because he knows art is subjective, and that's the beauty of storytelling. So yeah, man, when I watched it the first time, I was like, okay. And then I watched it the second time or third time. I said, okay, I see the visual storytelling because there's multiple storytelling aspects of it. Actually, there
Mm-hmm.
is visual storytelling, right? There is audio storytelling. The song selected all the way from the beginning to the end. We don't know who he's speaking to. He may not say, I want to speak to the masses, even though I'm on the platform where I have the masses. I want to speak to certain select people. I don't know. Or I may be speaking to the masses, but I'm speaking in code. So whoever gets it, it gets it. If it goes over your head, it goes over your head, right? He might be doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have narrating storytelling. And what I mean by that, most people be like, there's always narrators in storytelling, right? There's always kind of a narrator. But to have a physical presence in Samuel L. Jackson as the narrator, right, of the story, because every time he showed up, it was an end point of a chapter, right? He's ending the chapter so that a new one can begin. And that's at least what I saw. That's what I saw.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I haven't watched it the second or third time yet. I'm kind of waiting just to let it all process. But definitely, I wouldn't call myself a super fan, but I am the one who's gonna like. I'm gonna check it out one more time, see everything. There's just like you said, a lot of different meanings and who he's speaking to. I think he's kind of said it before in other performances is bigger than just like one artist type of thing. There's a lot of grander messages depending on how you want to take it.
Yeah.
So yeah, whether it was a win, whether it was a fail, I know his numbers are up. But speaking of fails, Jesse, he came in right in time, right on time. This whole conversation was inspired by, like, it started off as like, who had the best commercials, who didn't, and then also I just want to talk about a few other things as well. But yeah, we can just start off with someone like the terrible ones. We'll just go from bad to worse to above. Kanye, I haven't seen his ad, but he got a lot of stuff going on. And yeah, so I will say, with that being said, last year, just talking about, stories and ads and everything. Last year's Super Bowl ad was so unexpected and shocking and just like completely just like is this for real? That I think
Mm.
it was just like incredibly effective, where he literally was just like in like a U-Haul truck or whatever, on his phone, be like, "Hey, this is my Super Bowl ad. Here's my website. Just go." Um, and that led to him selling out his products. He was able to do a lot of retargeting, so he could like advertise people visited but didn't buy, and he generated a huge amount of revenue. So that was a successful ad. I didn't see it sound like he did something similar, and whether it was good or not, he's got a lot of other things as well. Because right, because and I'll mention this again later when I talk about the ad that I actually really loved, but then I looked a little bit more and I was like, I don't know what's going on with y'all, but good marketing could only do so much if people don't believe in your brand. Just like Chris was saying earlier about, like, getting the fans and the attendees involved in it. They gotta want to, you know, uh buy your products, want to be a part of your brand, your ecosystem. And if commercial be like fire, social media team could be incredible, but everything else is trash, you're not gonna go so far. But there was one ad in particular that it wasn't necessarily bad, but I just thought it was so funny because it was talked about, so I think it was effective as far as brand awareness. But I'm gonna share my screen real quick, and I'm curious if like y'all had a similar thought. Where we at? Where we at? This is funny. This is a thread that popped up. Shout out to Duolingo too. Whoever's on their team is just killing it. During the Super Bowl, Duolingo just tweeted out the fucking circle or Kirkle or whatever. They were unhinged the whole entire game. They're doing a lot of stuff, right? But Kirkle circle, still don't really know exactly what it is, but they did an ad essentially where it was actually, I think, a relatable story, right? This guy, he's at the store, gets a call from his wife, and then she's like, "Hey, can you get this, we're out, or don't forget to get this." He's like, "Of course, I got it." And he went around to the store, he's asking people like, "Yo, y'all got this?" And they're like, it basically sold out. So if you've ever been like on this chase to get that product that you're supposed to get, your wife had mentioned before, men are notorious for shopping, and I will defend us. Like, nah, we could shop just as well, but we all know the truth. We all know the truth.
We don't
And
know
so
what we're
he's
doing.
going crazy. He's like, I would play the commercial, but I'm not trying to get any of these YouTube strikes. Um, and he ends up like ordering, he finds it online, right? The stores are out, but he finds it online. He puts the order in, he gets home, and then he was like, oh, he kind of messed up, didn't think he got it. Then he realized, like, oh, he did get it, because he got home, he paused with his wife, and his wife's like, oh, you got it, thank you. He's like, what? He looked at his phone. He ordered it. It got to the house in time, but he accidentally ordered 100,000 cases of this water. And so the whole commercial is like, where did it go? And so their kind of messaging is like, did you get my order? And so it's kind of like this social activation. I think it's like a smart thing to do, like tie the commercial to something that people could get involved with afterwards. But I think that I didn't see any people post about Circle or water or anything like that. I got a whole bunch of people being like, what is this? Huh?
Yeah.
What's
Yeah.
going on?" So yeah, that's one. And then I want to hear what your thoughts on that one, because I think that was one where they hit a bunch of checklists and everything. I don't know if there was additional things they wanted people to do on this like social activation stuff, and it may have worked to an extent, but I know I had no desire to check. I was thinking like, is there something outside? But I forgot as soon as the next commercial came on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You know what? The actor that they got, that's his style of comedy.
mhm.
It's very like quick, weird, funny. Um, when I first saw the commercial, I was like, I have no clue what's going on.
Right.
It was going. Well, I was like, hold up. Where do and sometimes like it not sometimes, but actually a majority of the time when you want to grab people's attention, you go right into the action of a story.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what their approach was. We're gonna go right into the action. I mean, how many men have been told to go get something and they say yes, they have no clue what it is, right? And I'm guessing their competition is Stanley. Stanley Cups. I'm guessing.
That would be a good guess because I know when he asked the store owner who was just like, I don't know what that is. And then he started drinking out of his. I was like, oh, that looks like a Stanley. That's what I thought it was at first.
But then you see the little kid with one, right?
Mhm.
The little boy had one. So and it had a different look to it. So they're saying our audience is not young women. Our audience is more flexible and different types of people can use it. So I'm not gonna lie, the Duolingo part, I think that was probably more of the conversation starter
Yeah.
because they said what most people were thinking after watching that commercial. Like, yeah. So creative. I don't know if they hit it on the head because it was so quick, but
Hmm.
um, yeah, I don't know. There were so many commercials. I would have to put them in a tier list. And here's why I say this: because when you talk about an effectiveness of an ad, right? There's usually different factors that people will. I would want to know what the marketing team's success looks like. What does success look like? Is
Yeah.
it
What are some of their
online
objectives?
presence being built
Mhm.
up, or is it actually tangible people buying the product in the next 14 days or 30-day period from the Super Bowl, right?
And if you go in the store and you see it, are you going to be like, oh, I saw this in a commercial? Am I
Yeah.
going to try that? Yeah.
And you may not be able to collectively grab that, but that's the thing, right? What metrics are you going by? I know there's different AI tools that marketers are using now to rate their ad, like the quality of their ad based on the money that they spent. There's a couple of
Hmm.
AI tools that I saw out there that marketers are using, and it's interesting. Some of them are really looking at online presence. Did people go to their website? Did people do this? And then there's another one where uh, it was really just, are people buying? And so depending on which one you're looking for, certain ads could be number one, but then on the other side, they could be at the bottom. So
Yeah.
as a business owner and a content creator or whatever you are, you want to be very clear on what success measurements or metrics look like for you, because we learn this from music, right? Numbers can be manipulated to tell a story
Hmm.
that doesn't necessarily, we learn this from social media too, that doesn't necessarily say you are profitable, right? So just be very careful with that, right? Um, yeah.
Yeah. I I realized as you were talking, right? Like, what were some of their objectives? I realized, like, in the commercial, like, he ended up getting it not because it was at the store. I think maybe they mentioned the store because it's like, that's a place you go to find things. But he was able to get it when he ordered online. So that could be like a subliminal messaging, like a if it's not at your store, you could get it online and it will get to you. Just be careful when you enter that number because you might get 100,000. We are going to take your money.
Yep.
So yeah, it was interesting. I think a commercial, and I didn't have this on my list, but I remember when I saw it and I was like, what the hell's going on? Um, Dunkin' Donuts. And they brought Ben Affleck back out, and I feel like that's a good like combination. Like they past commercials, I feel like they were entertaining enough. But this one I was just like, there's okay, they spent a lot of money. They had Drewski, they had Ben Affleck, of course, they had a couple other people. I was like, I feel like they focus so much on securing different talent, they didn't focus on that story at all. Because I honestly don't even remember what was going on, and I was confused during it. And also, I think maybe I just got some beef with Dunkin' Donuts' commercial team or advertising team because they got something that's like plays all the time when I'm watching something on Paramount. and it's Sabrina Carpenter, and it's just like espresso shake thing. And it's just so annoying and so bad. In fact, it makes me not want to ever buy from them because it's like I don't know what this is and I don't like it. But they keep playing it over and over. So I think I just got this like internal beast. So anytime I see them, just like I want to skip, but I can't skip ad.
Yeah.
So yeah, I personally would say the worst one that whole entire night was Dunkin' Donuts' commercial.
Dunkin' Donuts, man. It, they have been consistent on what they like to do. Celebrity, 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 right? That's kind of their thing, right? We
We
just
got
want to,
Affleck. That's
right?
not the insurance.
Yeah. So I'm not saying that Ben is not Ben is funny, right? But I think there's Dunkin' Donuts is trying to figure out what story they want to tell, right? You know, right? They're not even Dunkin' Donuts anymore. They're Dunkin', right? So
Oh yeah.
they're going through a whole rebrand. What I will say is this: uh, the the Nova Nordis commercial. I don't know if
What
you
was
saw
that
that
one?
one.
Nova Nordis.
The farm is they were talking about uh uh women, and I'm guessing they were referencing. I don't know. I guess they were referencing breast cancer, or
Oh
I don't know what they
yeah.
were. I guess they were
Yeah.
referencing,
Yeah.
but they made it like a flash, like model. I don't know.
Mhm.
I didn't get that one. Like it was like,
Yeah.
yeah. Any of the pharmaceutical commercials, I always look at them and I'm like, sometimes I'm like, I don't know.
Do you see the him and hers commercial? Because that one was bold. So um I only kind of remember the Nova Nordisk one. And I do remember being like, oh, okay, yeah, that's kind of bold, especially because I think I don't. It's one of the recent like executive order things is kind of like putting a halt to a lot of research in regards to cancer and everything. And so I feel like this whole like a lot of the commercials this year were had elements of inclusion and diversity in it. And I was surprised, especially because of like this whole attack on it. And I remember seeing last year, like there was some report that while it looks like all companies are walking back on diversity, there's still a lot that are kind of doubling down and standing strong on it. Um, some companies are doing it in kind of discreet ways. Some people are just like, no, it's gone. It's not working. All these different things. But I was surprised with the commercials and everything. And that was one of them where I was like, I honestly, I don't remember the commercial. So to an extent, like how good was it? But I do remember they were on some mission to cure cancer for a certain number of patients or something like that. So, I mean, shout out to them for that. Um,
Yeah, that was powerful because you're pulling on emotional strings there,
mhm,
right? Remember when I said something that's relatable to a majority of people who have been affected by it?
yeah,
That's something that they will rally around. That's what I mean by finding something that's a collective that people will be willing to support.
yeah.
And you just gotta, does your brand, does your business consistently represent that? That's the next key,
Mm.
right? Um, I'll say, did you see the Uber Eats uh,
Nah, I
with
don't think
Matthew
so.
McConaughey?
Oh,
And he was saying
he
how
he
all the
showed up a lot. He showed
yeah,
up a lot.
how different football teams were made, like the names of the teams were made. And he did a great job, right? Going through all the teams' names and all that stuff, right?
Hmm.
Pretty amazing. And then Uber Eats just throws on some terrible call to action at the end. Like they actually had great storytelling into the end.
That's funny.
I was
You
like,
know, that's
that was a
probably why I
waste.
can't connect the dots between Uber Eats and the commercials because I probably remember because I remember Matthew McConaughey, Matthew McConaughey,
Yeah.
Matthew,
With
Double
it.
M,
Double M.
Double M. I remember him. I feel like he's always in a Super Bowl commercial,
Yeah.
whether it's for cars or I guess now Uber Eats. But yeah,
Pringles did
um,
well.
Pringles did. Oh, yeah, they did. Oh my god, that
Must
mustache thing. That was a lot, but effective though.
super effective, funny, but it also showed you their different flavors because of some of the
Yeah.
mustaches that were out there. Very smart. We're showing you the
Mhm.
different flavors we have. We might even show you a new flavor inside. I didn't see if there was one. Um, the guy using the empty Pringles bottle as a like a sound maker. That's what kids used to do when they were younger, right?
Mhm.
You make things out of those things.
Yep.
They excuse me. They had a nod to the old Batman TV theme song. Uh,
Mm.
yeah. So that's for the older generation that may have caught that, right? You're trying to catch their attention as well.
Some nostalgia there.
Yep. And then it had great use of the celebrities, like people who
Mhm.
actually are known for their facial hair, right?
Yeah. Got
So
James Harden in there.
yeah. So
Yep.
those were, I believe that those were effective ways of using your time. Um, Now, is anybody gonna buy Pringles? I don't know, but I thought it was effective.
I don't know. That'd be interesting. I would love to see. So I'm gonna try to track some of these to see if there's any numbers showing afterwards or in some quarterly earnings report.
Look this up.
Um,
You want to send them a link, maybe in the comment
to what?
section. I think I may have some numbers for people to view. I don't want to go through them today, but
Okay,
uh,
yeah.
yeah,
In the
we can
link, or
send
we could
them.
do a post afterwards.
Okay.
Whatever you got after I get through this concussion from hitting myself with the mic. Yeah. So one commercial in particular that I thought was kind of top two on impeccable storytelling, Rocket Mortgage, right?
Mm,
So they had a whole commercial on it's basically home ownership, and the
mm-hmm,
whole message was everyone deserves a chance to own the dream, right? It's all around owning the dream.
mm-hmm,
Now, the dream, of course, like we already know, if you're living in the US, the whole American dream is to have a house, white picket fence, have a family, yada yada yada. And of course, as most of us get older, we realize, okay, that's a great dream. That's not really like the blueprint that they say it's this easy. All you gotta do is, find a bootstrap and pull it, and then you got a house. But there's all these we could have a whole different conversation just about the obstacles that are in place, the racial inequalities and everything. But Rocket Mortgage's commercial was effective because it kind of pulled to that, like the people who have to work, just all the obstacles that come into play when it comes to owning a house and getting approved and everything. And the Rocket Mortgage is the whole mortgage um, company. And the part that really, really made me go like, "Oh, okay, they did that." The commercial was great. They had that song "Country Roads" in there, and then at the end of the commercial, the screen went back to the stadium, and they were playing "Country Roads" in the stadium. I was like, "Yo, what an amazing way to pull it together!" Because the whole commercial was about like everyone deserves the opportunity to own the dream. It's like a united thing. It kind of goes against a lot of narratives and stuff about like um that are kind of counter to all the inequities that exist in like getting a home and everything, and this kind of spoke to that in this kind of artful way, calling it out without really saying it but kind of showing it. And yeah, and then they came through with that song at the end, and I thought that was so amazing. I really do think that that's like probably America's favorite song next to Sweet Caroline, and for a lot of these Southerners, Sweet Home Alabama. But like I remember in college, I went to a school, like I'm from South Carolina. I went to a school on the border of Virginia and Tennessee in the middle of nowhere. And I was at this house party that some like the golf team had threw, and I didn't know any of them. I don't even know how I ended up there, to be honest. I used to just be going places, just popping up. And it was kind of, was talking to a few people here and there, but when they played that song, everyone just was like, just like belting it out the top of their lungs. If they were singing like Meek Mill's "Dreams a Nightmare," and they were going crazy. And then afterwards, everyone was just like, oh, everyone was like loving it. Well, like, open to like speaking to everyone. It's like almost like the walls, like everyone's different, were down. That song really just like brought the humanness out of people. So that's just like a powerful song I've seen in action. Sweet Caroline singing that song got me a free ride in the taxis too. So those that's why I say those two, America's song.
yeah. What did we just talk about earlier? Positive associations. A song,
Yeah,
ice cream, food. I'm sorry, food. A song. Something that people can collectively get behind. And Rocket Money, they use that um, song. And they kind of got some extended time too, because even when the commercial went off, and then NFL went back to the audience. They were singing the song in the audience. So it's very smart on their part to use that song. And but I will say, um, they'll probably get that challenged a little bit. The American dream, just based on what is happening now. So
Hmm.
that might be just bad timing, but that's what happens.
Yeah. Speaking of bad timing, I can't, anytime someone, I think it's always amazing when companies are like pushing narratives that support diversity and inclusion, all that stuff. But like you said, how realistic is it? In Rocket Mortgage, there was a complaint filed against them for racial discrimination and everything, and with like this case of like a home inspection. We all know that that's a thing that happens, right? For those who don't, um, is Googleable, but for a lot of like people who inspect homes to determine their values, a lot of black homeowners are getting lower home values than other homes in their area, like literally on the same street of them. And Rocket Mortgage, they kind of filed like a lawsuit against the Department of Justice, the whole thing, but it's like I mean, appreciate the message, but we see you still too. We see you. So there's like a lot of commercials, and it's interesting as I'm sharing like the screens and everything, I'm realizing my timer resets. So I didn't realize how long we've been going. And I really want to talk about how to tell these like Super Bowl level stories, right? A few weeks ago, I shared something with you and I was like, oh, I'd love to tell stories like that. And you called me. You called me. You're like, well, then do it. You could do it. You ain't gotta wait for this or that, this or that. Just go out and start here, do bada boo, bada boom, bada boom, and then boom, you got these stories down. And that sounds kind of like I felt the motivation. I felt like, oh yeah, I can do it. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know how to do that. How do I start? And really, the real reason I wanted to bring you on is to talk about all this stuff, but also because you're someone who's been able to help a lot of people with finding that story, identifying the stories in their life that relate and can help to sell um just sell whatever their business is and what they got going on. You have this guide that came out like telling stories in like 24 hours. I'm gonna find it and put it up on the screen so everyone could um see it and everything. But I went through that and I was surprised that I not only found a story I could tell, but I realized that I have a lot of stories. I'm somebody who's like constantly in the process of learning about myself and just who I truly am and what really moves me and why I do things the way I do them. And like as simple as like in job interviews, I hate the question like, tell us about yourself. I'm like, man, I don't know. I do this and I do this. I'm good at it. Hire me or don't ask me that question. But that's just because like it's just been a challenge for me to learn what my story truly is. I'm pulling it up now. Chris's guide, how to tell your story in 24 hours. Y'all, I literally went through this in less than 24 hours. I think it might have been like 4 hours or 6 hours. I don't know. I was locked in. I was locked in it, but it was easy to follow. So Chris, my main story to you, or my main question for you is, what do you do if you feel like you don't have a story to tell?
Yeah, that's a great question. I work with a lot of people that actually say that, or they say, I've been telling a story, but it's not working.
Hmm.
So I guess I don't have a story to tell. So the first thing you got to do, you got to turn. I know this was not planned. You got to definitely turn the TV off. Like you actually have to turn the TV off. And I know this sounds funny, but you know, the more you consume, the more you push down your own stories.
Hmm.
So you need to take one of the things I like to do is take these. They're usually an hour and 30-minute walks, but now it doesn't have to be an hour and 30 minutes. You can be 15 to 30-minute walks, and you just need to really just go through what is coming to mind. Like I'll give you an example. Let's say you're walking and you start to ask yourself, okay, how did I get to where I am today? Like, what did I have to go through that I could not avoid, that I could not have someone else do? Like, what was that canon event? What was that one experience I had to go through? And that's usually a great spark while you're walking to kind of get it out, all the nonsense that's in your head, right?
Mm.
So you go on this walk and you're talking to yourself, you're reconnecting with yourself, talking to yourself. Then you get inside and you start to write down some of the things you revealed about yourself. Because if you keep it in here, you'll never peel back the layers and layers and layers that have been put on to protect some of these stories. Because I can imagine when you went through this, did you feel a little bit of hesitation about telling
Mm.
some of those stories? Or were you just like, no, I like this story, I want to tell it?
Both. There's some stories I thought of, but I was like, I'm gonna go with this one.
So let's just say you thought of two stories, right?
Mm-hmm.
One was meant for you, which is important, and the other one's meant for your business.
Yeah.
But you'll never know it unless you start collecting stories, your own stories. You got to collect them first. They're
Mm.
here, but you don't own them because they have so much on top of them. You got to peel back the layers. So that's the first thing I would say. And once you start writing down and just writing and writing and writing, you're going to do this for almost like, you can do this for a week, or you can do this for an hour. It's up to you. I say 24 hours. You actually can do it for 24 hours in 24 hours. And then once you have that, then there's a format. It's the format is one story. Okay. Right. One story, one format. Right. That one story and one format, that part of your um, experience is important. So one story, one promise, one framework. I'm gonna say it again. One story, one promise, one framework. So let's say your story was about how you got into the podcasting game. Okay.
Mm.
You had to do something, like something you could not avoid, right?
Mm.
Whatever that story is, that's a key to anyone else that wants to get into podcasting, right? So that's your story. Now, how you got through that obstacle or that event is now your promise. Okay? Your promise. If you approach your experience with this mindset in this way, I promise you there is opportunity to get to the other side. After you have that
Mm-hmm.
promise, then there's that one framework, right? Now you get to say, well, how did I actually do it and consistently show up after overcoming that objective? Now you
Right.
have your framework. And that's a story that you can tell over and over and over again. And that's how you would grab that podcast audience that needs you.
Hmm.
So that's how that would work.
That's this really is like a repetition.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Hmm. So like, and then kind of finding that story and then kind of bringing it back to like sales, right? Because
Yeah.
we can find that story that we love and it makes us feel stronger telling it. But something you mentioned earlier was like some of the people you work with, they say, I've been telling my story, but it's just not working. So how do you bridge that gap? Like for people who are great storytellers or who are just learning to become storytellers, but their main goal really is to get some sales, get the numbers up, whether it's for themselves or at the company they work at. They want to try some campaign and they have a great story and a great way to doing it. But it's like bridging that gap between like telling that story and does it actually convert? Like, what are some of the mindsets? Or like, well, I'll just stop right there. How does that work?
You got to start with the end in mind.
Hmm.
You have to start with the end in mind. What type of experience do you want people to have if they say yes to you first? Most people
Hmm.
start with the intentions, I want to sell to this person, instead of saying, I want to connect with this person. And usually people rush trying to sell to people because they don't have a framework. They don't have a journey that they want to take their their audience on, right? That's why I said storytelling so effective, because it naturally puts people into a journey that they can have multiple experiences in and then sell themselves.
Mm,
So if you really want to know how to sell to people, what they're experiencing or what they have experienced, and you're not willing to acknowledge that they are experiencing it, why would I go to you versus someone else who's more established? So it's very important to do that, right? People ask me all the time, how do I show up and you see me at all women events, and I'm the guest speaker? How does that work? And they're like, my son asked me this one time. He's like, Dad, you're not even a woman. Why would they even listen to you? Like, how do you do that? Right? And I would say, well, I said, your grandmother was amazing. I watched her struggles. I watched how it impacted her mind. I watched how it impacted her support. And I just remembered that I never wanted anyone to experience what she experienced, even though she was extremely
mm,
successful. I just didn't want people to experience that. Right? I knew it was hard enough for her as a woman in the tech field in the 90s, proving
mm,
herself every single day. Right?
right.
Right. So I was like, man, I got cousins. Right? I got cousins who are phenomenal. If they're gonna struggle like this, let me see how I can help. Right? Like they gave so much to me. And that's where my story is always my story and my gift and my skill, that's where it kind of all comes together. So if you are trying to tell better stories, first start with the end in mind. How do you want people to come to you? Do you want them to come to you saying, hey, how do I work with you? Or do you want people to show up and say, sell to me? Which one you
Mm.
think is easier?
How can I work with you?
How can I work with you? So that's your end. Then you go backwards. You go backwards till we get to the beginning. Then it goes, okay, what's the best way to engage people? If I'm a small business owner and a content creator, it's most likely in person.
Mm,
Let them feel you. Get the energy, right? Connect with them. Make it about them and not about you. Make it about the shared experience. We just talked about that, right?
yeah.
The shared experience. That's what the NFL does. They talk about the shared experience and how we're going to get the collective to push the brand, to push the business. It's exactly what you need to do. It's like, okay, now how do I get the collective to push it? I got to speak about acknowledging what people want to learn. I got to acknowledge what people want to attain. I got to tell that story in person enough where I get so good at it that it's like second nature. Now I'm not thinking about selling to you. I'm thinking about, do I have time on my book to do I have time on my book to actually, take this appointment? Or
Mm,
do I need to pass it off to one of my recruiters? Or do I need to they like the product, so I need to get someone in contact from the sales team? Whatever it may be, you got to figure that out, right? And then from there, you start asking yourself, where is my audience spending their time at, and where are their struggles haunting them? Where are they spending their time at, and where are um, their villains or their struggles haunting them? And
mm-hmm.
then how can I stand and be a support to give them something that at least alleviates some little of pain so they can breathe a little bit. Like that's how
Yeah.
I think. Can I give them something today that'll allow them just to breathe just a little bit so they can get that breath in, right? And then from there, you're at the beginning. And now you're saying, okay, this is the story I want to tell. So
Mm.
that's the process.
I like that you actually took us through the whole working backwards thing versus just kind of saying, because I mean, just saying like, oh, just start from the end, work way backwards. That's great advice, but you actually kind of showed like the different steps there, and just like the whole like, where is your audience or where is your people you want to reach? That's such a like that. That's such like a that's not always an easy question to answer, and I think a lot of people just assume like there's an assumption that TikTok young, Facebook old, but And I will say there's a lot of people who are young who do not have a Facebook account at all. But
Mhm.
just to kind of blankly say that, it's like missing out on those who do. I know even like in my, I'm like, I don't know what they call it, but younger millennial, and based on kind of generalizations, you would think like there might be a few on Facebook, but like literally everyone I went to school with is still using Facebook. It's probably their main platform. They're on Instagram. They probably have TikTok too, but they be posting on Facebook. They're everywhere,
For
but they
real.
go back to that platform there. Super underrated.
Yeah.
Even LinkedIn. I For a long time, I thought I was the youngest person on this platform, but I'm seeing people who are just graduating popping up and doing their thing on LinkedIn too. I'm like, oh, hold up. I really am getting older now. I'm not the young professional. I'm the aging professional now. I'm on the other side
Yeah,
of
yeah,
30.
man.
Yeah.
Get
Uh,
mature.
right. Mature. So yeah, that where are they? And who are their what are their kind of pain points, who's availing, who are the heroes, and I love that. I love that. And I'm remembering actually going through your guide and kind of feeling like actually I need to go through it again actually now I think about it, because I felt like when I was going through I was like, okay, not only is it that I know how to tell my story, I know how to find out what the story of my people I want to work with, like what's their story and where can I fit in as well. So I think I don't
Yeah,
know, just love kind of how you put that together and all the different um, aspects and ways to look at storytelling.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I love what you just said right there because that's the other aspect. You can't do this alone, right? So if you know where other people's story intertwines or weaves with yours, then you can create a collective energy so everybody
Mm,
wins, right?
facts.
Everybody wins. And I have somebody. Uh, Shout out to Gabby. Gabby is such an amazing business owner, and because I supported her in her beginning stages, her and I created, a weaving in of our stories. And so she looks out for me, like without me asking.
Mm,
And I'm so appreciative of that because when I went there, that wasn't my intentions is, oh, you're going to do something for me because I'm doing something for you. It was, I remember how it felt to start something new when I had no resources, no support, and I was stressing and I didn't know if this was going to work. I would have loved for someone to come and support me and kind of like take it off my shoulders a little bit and just say, it's going to be cool. You're going to be fine. And when I had that opportunity to do that for her, and I didn't even know her, I just did it. And now, years later, I've watched her community of women grow massively. Like it's wild what her community has grown into in 3 years and the connection she's made. And that has opened doors for me to speak in so many places like the NGM,
mm.
and Springfield and
The
different.
MGM. That's a place that Bruno Mars owes millions of monies to.
Oh no,
That's
I'm
what
staying out
we're
of Vegas.
doing.
I,
That's what
I
we're
stay on the East
doing.
Coast. I stay on the East Coast, brother. I'm staying out of that spot.
Yeah.
But yeah, you got to know other people's stories so you know if you would fit in or not. And that goes back to that Jalen Hurts concept of consistency. When you
Mm,
can consistently show up as who you are, people know where you would fit in, really know what opportunities would be great for you. And then the selling it's not even selling anymore. Sometimes now it's just a warm introduction and they've already bigged you up. There's been plenty of times where I have not even met this person or they've never heard me talk. And Gabby said so much stuff about who I am. They're like, I had to meet you. I would
mm.
love to work with you.
That's dope. Shout out to you, Gabby. MVP. MVP. Man, that's amazing. That's amazing. I love when kind of community comes together, and I guess you kind of make that easier when you know your own story as well, because
For
then
sure.
it makes it easy for other people to support you. And also you just now help me realize I always struggle when people ask me how can I support you when they ask me that. I love asking other people that,
Hmm.
but yeah, and I guess it's kind of knowing like what the story is now and what I want the story to be, and just kind of sharing that story with them in a brief ways because I don't want to take up, hours of time. But I like that. I like that.
Yeah.
And speaking of taking up time, I appreciate you for yours. Like I said before, my timer kind of reset when I shared my screen. I did not catch it. We went longer than I expected. So I truly appreciate you doing this.
Yeah, it's all
Appreciate
good.
everyone catching this live, catching the replay. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Appreciate y'all.
Also shout out to myself because I've done 4 of these so far this year. I'm more consistent than I've been since 2022. I'm back, baby. Yeah, we doing this. We doing this. We doing this.
Mustard!
Master.
No.
I'm about to turn the TV off. Catch me next week, actually. And I'm gonna just
Yeah.
drop more comments in another post. Appreciate you, Chris. And everyone, I put the link in the thing where you can find that guide, Tell Your Story in 24 hours. Highly, 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 highly recommend it. And I love that right now is budget friendly. So get it while you can. Take care, y'all. And peace.